God damn. Number one, start off on a bit of a somber note. I guess R.I.P. and thoughts and prayers go out to Kate Spade and Auntie Bourdain's family. They back-to-back suicides. It kind of felt like, I think they'll separate maybe only by a couple of days. Kate Spade, an influential fashion designer, impresario, socialite personality within the New York creative scene. And then obviously Anthony Bourdain, one of the leading voices in the culinary world, restaurant world, travel world, kind of the person that basically laid the framework or the blueprint for travel shows that you see today and how they kind of run, you know, the kind of solo traveler, the idea of going to different parts of the world and kind of putting food or culinary delights that are not necessarily given the limelight and giving them the platform that exposes it to a wider public, the idea of breaking bread with people in their natural habitat, the idea of embracing the rough edges. Both of them were influential people, and yeah, man, it's been a fucking crazy week because obviously a few months ago, a friend of mine or someone that I've known for a while, who used to be a security guard at quite a lot of clubs I used to play for in trendy part of East London of Dawson and Shoreditch, one of those kind of places. He he did take his life too. And that hit me quite hard too, because I remember speaking to him a lot about his depression after work and him feeling a bit down and stuff. And, you know, suddenly then he's gone. He's not around anymore. But I was unable to glean any more information from the whole issue because his family kind of kept it private. I'm assuming through maybe some weird sense of shame because, you know, a lot of African, Black, Caribbean families have a weird correlation with, kind of correlate suicide with something evil, you know. It's like it's a sin against God, you taking your own life, you know, because obviously every life is meant to be precious and stuff, and you're made in the image of God, so taking your own life is kind of like you're spitting in God's face. So there's a weird thing that Black people have with suicide in general, so I'd assume that's the reason why they didn't want to put any more information out, or it could just be they wanted to keep it private and didn't want anyone else to get involved. I can understand that too, but I didn't really get that much information about what Aiden's death was and, you know, whether or not to help out. Nothing really came out of there in that regard, so that was a bit sad. But it kind of made me think, it made me reflect a lot on life in general and kind of the things that some people complain about. It kind of made me prioritize some of the stuff that I'm thinking about, and also kind of maybe it kind of reset my ambitions and my way that I kind of going to conduct myself in life in general. I've kind of always had a bit of a practical way of looking at these kind of things, but sometimes when it happens to someone very close to you, it kind of knock you back a bit. And I guess in terms of Kate Spade, it was sometimes something as well that did come out of the blue, mostly because, you know, Anthony Bourdain at least had a history of drugs, had maybe, if you read in between lines of some of his recent interviews and a bit of his book, he did kind of suffer from some forms of depression, but most of it had to do because, you know, he was by his own words, he was a complete failure until maybe his early 40s, right? So he kind of was trying to do the work, but it never kind of worked out, and everyone around him was succeeding, and, you know, working in the restaurant industry, working in any sort of service industry at that kind of age, it does kind of fuck up with your head, right? It kind of makes you think maybe I'm not as successful as I should be, maybe I'm a bit of a failure, I'm a disappointment to my family, blah 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 blah. So at least with Auntie Bourdain, there's a bit of a context there. Even though he was clean for most of his life, you know, since he came into the limelight and stuff, in terms of hard drugs, he was still drinking stuff, but in terms of hard drugs that kind of really held him down, in terms of heroin and coke and stuff, he wasn't doing that as much as he was doing it before. So, but at least with Anthony Bourdain, you can kind of you can not understand, but you can. There's more context to it, right? But with Kate Spade, it kind of came out of the blue because I met Andy Spade once when I went to New York for the first time in 2009. We went for our first kind of boys' holiday. Me and a group of friends who kind of were kind of prominent in the London streetwear blogging kind of era. They used to run this site called BNTL, which I'm pretty sure is still around now, but in its original incarnation, it kind of, you know, highlighted all the sick, amazing stuff that was happening in London, because it kind of came out after the whole hypebeast stuff that was mostly LA and Hong Kong, LA, New York and Hong Kong based, right? Mostly because it's based in Hong Kong, wherever, or like Japanese kind of centric. And BNTL did a good job of highlighting brands within London that were doing cool and interesting things. So we went over to New York in 2009, had an amazing trip, and during that time too, I also had my own blog called Stop Begging that was fairly well known within the scene, and I happened to connect with Heron Preston online. We became kind of like email pen pal guys, whatever, exchanging comments, whatever. I used to steal the theme of his website quite often, which I'm sure he was aware of. And then I went over to New York and met him, and then we were eating and drinking in this place. I think it's called La Esquina or something, some bar in New York, right? That's got like it's sort of like a camper van. I'm trying to get it up. Let me see if I can try to get it up. La Esquina. Is it La Esquina? La Esquina, New York. Let's see if it's the one. That's why I remember bumping into Andy Spade in this place. See if I can get it up on the rush. Yeah, here we go. Boom. So went to New York, had an amazing time, and met Heron Preston in this bar. Right, it's called La Esquina. It's a restaurant bar in New York. So as you see from the pictures, hopefully you can see it if you're watching it on YouTube. If not, I'll link everything on the show notes. But basically, it's this bar in New York that serves like tacos and watermelon juice and shit. Really, really nice. But then it's amazing because once you go through the kitchen to get downstairs into this like secret bar that looks like that downstairs, right? Really dimly lit, like just an amazing bar downstairs that you kind of go through a secret like a kitchen door to go downstairs. An amazing place, right? So I remember meeting Andy Spade there. We actually were here at the top, so where you kind of get your drinks and your tacos, and then we went downstairs to this bit later on. And he was such a cool guy, man. I remember reading quite a lot about him, and but I didn't know much about his wife at the time. And I remember from that conversation of how highly he spoke about his wife. And it might sound weird, but I come from a family where most of the men in my family treat their wives like shit, right? One of my uncles who recently passed, actually, from a stroke. He had a stroke in his sleep. Then it was discovered that he had like 2 different families in 2 different continents, right? Which was fucking bizarro. And then the fucking funeral was an absolute shit show. I heard it was like a world star thing. People were kicking off and fights happening left, right, and center. So I come from a family where, a wife is kind of like a childbearing robot, right? You kind of go in, impregnate them, and then you go out and kind of live your bachelor lifestyle. But then you're hiding each one, right? So I don't really have a problem with polyamory, but at least be upfront and let the person know that, I'm in a relationship, or I'm in an open relationship, or I have the option to have other partners. But hiding people in general and being a shitty dad and a shitty husband is just something that I've always been exposed to. So when I went to New York and I was speaking to Andy Spade and Heron, and at that time Heron had a girlfriend who he used to put on his blog all the time. At that time, obviously Andy Spade was married to Kate Spade, this influential designer, and they were both alphas because Andy Spade had his own thing too. Literally, he used to do books, installation, part of just an amazing power couple, right? Both operating on really high ends of the cultural and artistic landscape. So then to come back and to hear this kind of really sad story that she unfortunately took her life is so gutting, man. Like really, really gutting. And, they've got a young kid as well. And, there's rumors about maybe they had marital drifts and stuff, which I don't really care about. Someone's life was taken, or they took their own life. And now someone's sister, mother, wife is not around anymore. It's just bummer, innit? And then with Anthony Bourdain, it hit me even harder because Anthony Bourdain is kind of the starting point for a lot of the people that I look up to in the podcast, comedy, entertainment industry, right? They kind of frame their whole way they look at things, or the disappointment they have in their career, or the things that they're aiming for based on what Anthony Bourdain was able to do with no reservations. He came about in my life during a time where I wasn't very appreciative of food. I used to always say food for me was like a fuel source, right? I just make sure I keep myself alive. That's why I eat. But then to contradict myself, I've got sweet tooth, and I love processed food, right? At the time, because that's why I used to be super fat. I used to be at 260 pounds. So I used to love eating fucking crisp and chocolate, but anything pertaining to like actual real food, like pasta, rice, whatever it may be, I'd kind of like turn my nose up at it, which is fucking ridiculous, but stupid fat guy shit. So Andy Bourdain came around during that time where I was kind of a bit like over food, and he made me appreciate it in a whole different way because he was able to relate it to culture, right? He'd able to go to these different neighborhoods, different countries, different cities, and sit down with people and actually break bread for real. Not in this weirdly manufactured, sterile way that other shows did, what they really kind of went in and gave the whole place a lick of paint and kind of put in the right amount of lighting to make it look more fabulous than it was. He went in there and sat on those plastic stools like he did with Barack Obama in a dingy place somewhere, all right, and ate their food, drank their beer, like didn't order anything off menu, ordered exactly what all the locals eat. And if anything, he was always known for asking whoever his fixer was, whoever the restaurateur was, whoever the host was, what they would eat, right? And have actually eaten that first, kind of get an appreciation of their food instead of eating the kind of the pacified Western version of what they eat that they kind of serve to tourists. And also he ignited my travel bug, right? That was during a time where I hadn't gone anywhere, but I also knew that the life that I was living before of buying Supreme every week and double taps and every other Japanese brand like Bape and all that stuff all the time, and not making anything for myself, or not exploring the world and becoming culturally aware and becoming worldly and having a philosophical standing or reading, because he used to quote an amazing amount of books in his little opening monologues of No Reservations and the Layover. It really opened my eyes to kind of diving deep in those kind of things. And it also, by a weird way, right, which is kind of going to sound crazy, but it also kind of led to my mild depression that I had whilst I was living at home. I was living at home and I fucking hated it, right? Like, me and my mum, especially my mum, we were having so many arguments. It was during a time where I was kind of waking up to the idea that I had to leave the house. I was regretting the idea that I went to a university in London in Central St. Martin's, and I decided to stay at home and not go in campus because it was too expensive. And I just had a shitty time at university. It didn't feel like university because I was in a London university. Most of the people in my class were foreign, so there wasn't a real way to kind of speak to people or hang out. The people that were from London had their own friends, so they didn't want to hang out anyway. So we were left with no one really to chill with. I only made friends really in the second year. And at home, I felt like I didn't have any independence, right? My parents are super conservative. They were always very, very hesitant to let me kind of live my own life or do my own thing. They kind of tried to mollycoddle me, even though I was very independent from day dot, etc., etc., etc. And I probably didn't help the situation myself by being very combative in that situation. But watching a No Reservation, seeing this guy who came from very bleak past, right? He had overcome drug addiction, had made something of his life, met a great girl he had a kid with, produced his own TV show, written an amazing book in Kitchen Confidential. It really bummed me out, right? I felt like I should be doing that too, because here's somebody who was a complete loser, basically, who, by his own words, before the age of 40, and kind of suddenly then became like one of the biggest cultural culinary stars out there. Obviously most of it was due to his complete hard work and amazing talent, right? That voice is probably never going to be replicated again in food, but it kind of shone a light on my life and made me think, wow, I'm not doing shit, right? Every time you watch this guy, he's in another far-flung place a place maybe you might not even heard of, right? And he's eating amazing food and connecting with amazing people, or just seeing amazing sights, just amazing. And I got really bummed out, really, really sad, because, and this lends itself to the idea that Jordan Peterson says in 12 Rules for Life, right? There's one rule in there. No, sorry, in general, where it says clean your room first before you criticize the world, right? Get your own house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Now, it sounds like a throwaway quote that you could find in any fucking Instagram page, but I guarantee you, if you live at home with very conservative parents, or parents that think they know the best, or parents that think they can't make mistakes, or very just conservative parents in general, or religious parents, right? Cleaning your room, buying your own food, right? Even just painting I remember when I painted my room white, like fucking hell, man. It was weird. Like, it caused such a rift in my house. I remember buying my own food was a big concern when I started doing keto diet and stuff, whatever, making my own salads and stuff. My mom was criticizing that. My dad was getting angry about that. And it kind of was, in their point of view, it looked like I was spitting at their feet, right? I was taking the house for granted. Like, I thought I was better than them in some regards. So when Jordan Peterson says to people, especially the millennials, to, get your own house in perfect order before you try and before you try and go out there and do gun reform, or change the hierarchy, or strip down, or break down the patriarchy, whatever it may be, get your house in order, because that strength of resolve, the battle that you have to go through in your own home, right, just to fucking buy your own food, or to come back when you please, right, is immense. And if anything, it will toughen you up for the battles outside of life. But if you live a life where you're generally always given what you want, and you suddenly step into the real world and you're met by challenges, the first thing that will come to your brain is like, oh, I need to change everything, right? I need to fucking change the system, become an activist, which necessarily isn't really the way to go about things. Fix yourself, and then you fix the world. So I went through a bit of a slump with Jordan Peterson, but then, through Anthony Bourdain, actually watching the show, and I stopped watching it. And then I started watching it again, and I started watching Layover. But then during that time, I also did a bit of self-work, and I kind of got my own life in order and aligned myself in the right way. And one of the things that kind of helped me do that was to write a list down of the things I wanted to achieve for myself, right? Not based on what Anthony Bourdain was doing, but on my own back. And I've got a list here that I found. If you're not watching this on YouTube, then I'm going to describe it to you. I just this is a list I found from 2011, right? From now to probably, I'm assuming for October, September, right? I made like a list of my goals that I wanted to achieve that by the end of the year in 2011. And this is what kind of mended my depression, or more, it wasn't even depression. I was just bummed out, right? And that wasn't necessarily what I thought I was going to be. Weirdly enough, it's weird because I was always told from when I was younger that I was going to be, I was destined for greatness, right? I was special, right? Everyone that met me thought, oh my God, you should be doing that. People always suggest fucking careers for me, right? Oh, you should be a presenter, you should be a YouTube video. Everyone's got a suggestion about me, right? And I'm sure they probably haven't got their own shit figured out. It's fucking annoying, right? So it's sort of like when you decide you want to start working out or do a new diet, everyone's got a fucking opinion, right? So everyone kind of everyone's probably, again, not to be disparaging, I think everyone found it easy to identify something in me which I probably didn't see in myself, right? So, but with that comes this weird sense of disappointment, right? Of failure when you haven't necessarily reached those lofty heights that everyone else is saying that you should have. And internally, you also think quite highly of yourself, right? So I had this weird delusion of grandeur and a very humble nature where I know I'm fucking the shit, but I also know I'm not shit, right? It's this weird sort of like balance I maintain within myself. Most of it is an inner dialogue. I don't necessarily say this out loud, apart from this lovely podcast. Thank you for listening. So, but the way I dealt with it was to manage it, was to make a list of things and break it down, right? And this list from 2011, I'm going to hold up to the camera now. I'll describe the list so you guys can see it. Hopefully it kind of shows up. It basically says what I want you to do. Number 1, complete insanity. Number 2, drop weight to 200 pounds. Number 3, jog more. Number 4, eat more healthy. Number 5, sleep better. Number 6, finish transcribing Love Fever interview. Number 7, take pictures of the betting shop for the betting shop project. And number 8, do more, speak less. That list, right, what kind of rejigged my whole insides, made me recalibrate everything and put me down the path that was gonna eventually lead to me being what I am now, right? I'm a good functioning human. I contribute to society, good house, got a brunette here, chilling, nice group of friends, doing my own thing on the side. But that was able to, I stopped having FOMO. I stopped looking at others and kind of judging my success based on their successes, or thinking I'm a failure because I'm not necessarily where they should be, right? But imagine the stupidity of it, right? Me at 19, 18, living in my parents' house, comparing my life to a 40-year-old. Even if he was a teenage star, right? He has a track record he has a rap sheet, a CV of experiences, right? I don't have shit, right? I think at 19, I might have had 2 jobs, if that, right, in my lifetime. And I'm comparing myself to a 40-year-old. But it does happen because you're watching TV. It's accessible. Anthony Bourdain is a very personable person, right? He's very down to earth. He's super funny. He's kind of like the every guy. He's like the uncle that everyone wished they had. You know what I mean? Like, so it's easy for your brain to just decide, oh my God, like he's a human. He does that. Why can't I do that? And that's not necessarily how things go about. But that's why I can understand what can easily lead you down a depression wormhole. But that really helped me. Making this list really helped me because it kind of allowed me to kind of get centered and figure out, no. You have a lot to do yourself in your own career, right? In your own thing. You have so much to do right now for yourself. The last thing you need to be worrying about is what bloody Anthony Bourdain is doing, right? That's the last thing you need to do. And also, along the way of doing anything on this list, the process is more important than actually ticking off the points. Because if I end up, even if I end up not completing this insanity, right, that beach body workout, the fact that I went through it allows me to know where I am, right, in terms of physical capacity, and it also maybe gives me an idea of what I can do next, right? So nothing is a failure. Even if I don't drop my weight to 200 and I get it to 210, I've done 210. That's amazing. Even if I don't jog as much as I should jog, I've jogged already. So it's given me a bit of a taste for it and showed me that maybe it's not as hard as I think it has. I think it will be. Everything has a positive to it, and the process is what the positive is, not the end goal. And that's what eventually leads to curing, in my opinion, my own depression, because I had something to aim for. I had a target to go for. I wasn't sitting there like bummed out about my own life and looking at someone else's successes and thinking, fuck, I should have that. But I also know that depression, for most people, that's not as simple as that.